Hi. This morning we're going to talk about this assignment on ethical marketing. We got to figure out what is ethical marketing. It's actually a more difficult, value-laden, and confusing topic than most people give it credit for. Why is that? Well, first of all, whose ethics are we discussing? Who creates the standard? Even within a single belief system such as Christianity, there's different levels and different types of beliefs. Some Christians feel drinking and dancing are sins, while others only see drunkenness as a sin. So how do we find some common standard out there that will answer all people and all people's concerns for what is and isn't ethical? What if we take an academic or philosophical perspective? We have the same question. Which foundation would we use? Would we use absolutism, relativism, justice theory, rights theory, distributive justice, contractualism? These are all well-established ethical philosophies, but they will result in different answers to the what is ethical question if we apply each one to the same dilemma. We have to start somewhere to define ethical marketing, and the AMA does a pretty good job of giving us some guidelines, and they can be found at the website www.marketingpower.com, then clicking under About the AMA, and then Statement of Ethics. By the way, this is marketing. So in marketing, when we say AMA, we mean the American Marketing Association and not the American Medical Association. The AMA in marketing is kind of the largest independent trade organization representing marketers and those who practice marketing, as well as those who study marketing in the entire discipline. However, the AMA lacks regulatory ability to actually penalize anyone who steps outside their bounds and guidelines. So it's interesting that while they provide a good set of guidelines, they really have no way to punish anyone who steps outside of them. That doesn't minimize the fact that it's great and it's a very, very large benefit that they publish this extensive statement of ethics, which you need to read, but at the same time, it only carries so much punch. So how do we know what is and isn't ethical? What's the line between excitement, puffery, and outright lying? I mean, we've probably all seen late night TV with weight loss commercials and bodybuilding ads that tend to imply to just take this pill or just use this stretchy thing and there we go. But does that really work? Do any of those pills or that little stretchy thing really make us look like the bodybuilder in the show? Yeah, there's fine print at the bottom. The fine print usually says done in conjunction with a proper diet and other exercise and all this other kind of stuff. The results may not be typical. Is that small type enough? What about Abercrombie and Fitch? We've seen a lot of their ads lately. What is it the company's really selling? Looking at some ads, I'm not so sure it's clothing. It really looks like they're selling sex to me. Yet we also know that clothes for teens are very important, and clothes do relate to status and acceptance. Right or wrong, it happens. In fact, recently, JCPenney got in trouble for implying, rather directly, in one of their ads, that their clothes would make a kid popular at school. There was public outrage over that. Yet at the end of the day, let's face it, if we send a child to school in the wrong clothes, he or she will be ostracized, and it is a social faux pas. That doesn't make it right. It just makes it real. So what if the result of wearing clothes isn't something we want to have happen? I mean, is it unethical to tap into the buying triggers and psychological motivation behind teen behavior? I mean, many of us believe that teen sex is wrong because it's outside marriage, and even those who don't have that as a Christian basis still feel that teens should not be engaging in sex. But is it up to corporate America to enforce and live to that biblical guidance as opposed to some other philosophical or ethical foundation? What about failure to disclose? Failure to disclose in advertising and marketing is where we leave out some of the facts. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever traded a car in and maybe not told the buyer or the dealer everything you know about the car? Are you then not a marketer who's dealing with telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Are you failing to disclose? Would that be considered an unethical act as a marketer? Would we hold a company to a different standard than an individual? The AMA uses phrases like stewards of society, do no harm, embrace ethical values, foster trust, vulnerable markets, and avoidance of false and misleading promotion. But again, is there a scale that's universal for any of these elements? I mean, when we look at vulnerable markets, we think of the elderly or we think of children. But at what age is someone elderly and unable to perhaps cut through the truth and the non truth in an ad? At what age can a child tell the difference between truth and fiction? There are lots of consumers, there are lots of resources out there for consumers to use when researching proper and improper behavior for different businesses. But again, what gives those resources and sources the right to make those claims or set those standards? I mean, some of them have been found to be blatantly fudging the truth. Where there was an infamous report on SUV rollovers probably 12 or 15 years ago, or there was a time that one objective source actually weakened the roof of the Volvo so that it would look like it did poor in its rollover test. Are those unethical behaviors by supposedly some third party source trying to tell the consumer who they should and shouldn't do business with? Sure sounds like it to me. So, what sources can any consumer tap into easily and freely, and why do you know that that source actually provides the truth? What's the purpose of the source? That might be an interesting question to use when we're judging whether or not a source is objective. I mean, if the source charges the consumer for the report it's providing, is that questionable? Should those reports be given out freely? What if that objective entity charges the business being reported for maintaining a file on the business? Does that perhaps skew what businesses have files maintained on them? Does it perhaps impact or affect our perception of how objective that particular entity is? What about governmental agencies? What government agencies are in play in this topic, and what's their purpose? Are they truly objective? So as we ponder this topic, how do we marketers fill our duty to our employer or client while also answering the call for ethical treatment of consumers when not all consumers have the same ethical foundation? This is not an easy topic, but it's definitely a topic we should delve into and dig into and apply a little more than just, that doesn't feel right, looking at some kind of foundation that we can apply.